Today I am going to be sharing my big old bag of decks that I'm looking to rehome. After careful consideration, at the end of 2021, it just felt right to do a decluttering going into the end of year so I could begin the next year anew, initiating a depth year despite a mini haul that I just did in January. Not a great start, but yeah, it happened. But I'm hoping that, 2022 is going to be the year of discernment. And so I'm not forbidding myself from getting any decks. I'm just making sure that I hit pause more than I have in the past to really think about what it is that I want. And anything that I've brought in, I don't feel like I've brought any decks into my collection that was completely impetuous, and I didn't buy with the thought of like, oh, well, I can always just get rid of it. I can always just rehome it if I don't like it. I definitely, every deck that I bought was one that I really carefully consider and liked, if not loved. And so when it comes for passing one on, it doesn't mean I don't like the deck or even love it and that I didn't have like a very special experience working with it. It's just sort of just feels like maybe it ran its course, or I just found that I wasn't working with it enough, and it doesn't feel right to keep it here and have it collect dust when it could be loved even more somewhere else. So one that I can't show because I have already mailed it to a friend of mine in the States was the Children of Litha, as a gleaming example of one that I loved. That deck is beautiful. I feel so bad that it just didn't. I feel like I ultimately just didn't connect with it, and it's not the deck's fault. I feel like part of it is maybe my old eyes. There's a lot going on in those images, and they have these like it was like all confined to like an oval shaped frame with like a black border around it. And so I think I just kind of needed it to be like just bigger. I just kind of needed it to zoom in for my 45-year-old eyes. So I loved, though, the fantasy element of it, the mix of humans and animals and like mythical beings, that had it all in there. It was really cool. And just the style it was almost like Disney, but like darker Disney. And in any case, I won't bang on about it when I don't even have it here to show, but my friend that I passed it on to is quite pleased with it. And so I'm very glad of that, because I almost very selfishly clung on to it just for the sake of having it, and that deck is way too beautiful to do that with. Another indie deck that I'm looking to rehome, regretfully, here's the boxlet, Rebirth. It came in this box. I added this stuffing, whatever it was packaged in. I think I ended up throwing it away, and so I've put this in just to keep it in place. But it was kind of a strange way to receive it, though. It's a very nice box, but then to have the smaller tuck box, and the tuck box itself is just plain white. There's nothing special about that. But just kind of having it floating around in this bigger box didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but it's a nice box regardless. I saw this on one of Lisa Pepez's hot takes at her channel, and it wasn't for her, but I thought it was for me, and I bought it on Etsy, and I thought I liked the story. There was just a bit of a backstory to it where the artist, I think, had gone through a breakup. And so working through creating the deck sort of reconnected her to her art and helped her be reborn following that experience. And so I really loved that, and I thought that can make for such a meaningful deck. Like, this is something very personal to that artist, and I'm always game to see like how that ends up translating, because even if there are things that are very personal to them, I might not understand it in the way that they do. But isn't that how art is? We all bring our own like individual experiences and frame of references to it, and so the meaning that we extract from it is going to vary accordingly. So I was interested in seeing how I might resonate with her deeply personal work, and if it would in turn feel really personal for me too. And it's beautiful. One of the things that really drew me to it were the muted tones. It's a lot of kind of earthy brown tone to it, and it's just a really cool art style. And I also like the white space. There's something just very clean and open about it. I thought it would pair nicely with other decks. Look at this hermit. I love that lantern in the belly. But as you can see, kind of different interpretations of these cards. And ultimately, that's where I landed with it. I love when there are visual depictions that challenge my previous understanding of a card's meaning. I like that challenge. I welcome that challenge. I accept that challenge. But there were a few in here that ultimately challenged me too much. Case in point. This is gorgeous. This is gorgeous. I love the star card in all decks. This one's no exception. I just don't know if that's the star to me though. And I'm not even gonna give my reasons why and question, because I know I look at a card like that, like this, again, for this artist, must have some deep personal meaning. This is a very specific point of view on that card, I think. And you might be looking at it and being like, oh, duh, isn't it obvious? I'm just saying I just don't. And I'm not going to critique why I don't, because it's a subjective thing, and I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing the artist and her approach to this deck. I'm not. It's gorgeous. Brava to her. I hope that it has found its way into loving hands for many and helping them, helping those other readers explore their deeply personal issues. I just, Seven of Wands. It's like I see how they work. I do. It's just when I lay it down though, and at a glance, I'm not getting, I'm having to, I don't want to say I'm having to think about it too much, and thinking's hard. I don't want to sound like that. It's not that, but I also just kind of want to be able to get it. And I was completely prepared, and I went through this one so many times. Like, okay, maybe I don't understand what she's trying to express with it, but I can find my own meaning. What does it mean to me? What am I seeing in it? And then just run with that. I mean, I think that's how we always have to work with our decks, but ultimately there were just some where I just still continued to struggle. And so, I don't know. I think it's so beautiful. As I'm going through it now, I'm thinking, really? am I gonna? And maybe I will end up holding on to it a little bit longer, but I feel like no matter how much I like the artwork, I don't know. I don't know now if this is one that I'm going to reach for. And I'm kind of feeling like another deck that I just recently acquired might scratch the itch. And this is the Tarot de Carlo Tides, which is a different style of artwork. It doesn't have the same sense of white space, but it still just seems like a very clean and inventive way of artistically depicting these cards. And I feel like right out the gate, I get it and it resonates and I can work with it right away, where I just felt a little bit more stumped with this one, I guess. And so, not in all cases, but what's coming out of her mouth? Again, that's not, I don't know. I from my understanding of Four of Cups, I'm just not seeing it, but I hope that you are, because I really want to support this artist and I want people to get it. I think another thing too is just like the court cards, like the queens and kings are sort of stuffed into their cups. They're small, and I'm trying to find one from another suit. You know, like the page and the knight. The people in the courts are very small. And then the queen, I don't know, like the proportions were just like different between suits and between cards. And so I don't know. I don't know. There was just ultimately enough things like that where I was just kind of like, I just kept kind of tripping up on it. And it's just a feeling in my gut that this isn't for me, but it's beautiful. I don't regret that I bought it and supported this artist, and I want her to see success with it. I want this deck to find a loving home with someone who does get it and is maybe not as dense as I am. Whatever the reason for my disconnect. But like I said, in the meantime, there's just sort of like this sense of like whimsy and cleanness to the artwork that I feel like I'm gonna get from this deck, even though I don't really know that these are decks to directly compare, and I obviously cannot articulate why I'm drawing a comparison, but I just am. So I don't know, maybe it is like the figures where there are like sort of like some historical fashion, but it's done in a contemporary way. That might be what kind of connects the two to me. But yeah, so I don't know. I think if you're watching this and you get it, if you're into tarot, you understand what I'm saying. It is just hard, and I hope that the ones that I'm getting, I don't want to say getting rid of, that I'm rehoming, the pre-loved decks that I'm rehoming, I hope there's none here that really slice someone through the heart, because I've watched videos like that where the ones that I absolutely love, and then you see someone else is just like, nah, and it's just like, oh, you almost take it personally, but it isn't anything. It's just because it is a personal thing that we each bring to it. And so another one that's really difficult, and I think the rest of these are mass market decks. But anyway, another one that it's difficult to move on because I worked with this one a lot. It's a great deck. It's a great deck. If you don't have this one, I recommend it. It's diverse, it's modern, it's very RWS, so I guess that would be one criteria for if you wanted to work with it. You've got to like the RWS. because it's very much cloning it, but with all female figures, but across the spectrum of what it means to be female. You get masculine and feminine energy in here for sure, regardless of how the characters in the cards might identify where gender is concerned. It's just such a fresh take on this, and it's such an easy reader. It's so easy, you know, just like instant understanding whenever I've worked with it. And yeah, it's great. I am just looking to move it on because this card especially reminds me of why. And of course, I didn't grab it, but This Might Hurt. The moon card of This Might Hurt almost looks exactly like this, with women wearing these masks. It's just so similar and ultimately tips the scales for me just in terms of like, well, there's the quality of the card stock. It is a much easier deck to shuffle. This is so, and I've said before, at least in another video, like I'm not a card stock snob by any means, but even so, like this is really thick. It feels like a piece of plastic, and the deck itself, it's not comfortable to shuffle. And I riffle shuffle, I overhand, and it's not comfortable for me to shuffle either way. So I don't know if they have since reissued this with a slightly thinner card stock, more bendy. I don't know. If they have, awesome. I still think it's worth having even if they didn't. But I mean, for me, I'm just saying I have this other deck that is very similar and ultimately just more aesthetically pleasing where the actual tactile quality goes, but then the artwork itself, there's more of a richness and depth to the coloration of the This Might Hurt tarot, and it also has the diversity and the contemporary depictions of, you know, traditional Rider-Waite Smith images. And so ultimately it was just too similar to This Might Hurt to warrant keeping at this time, but it's great. I did use it a lot. It's just time to pass it along. And hopefully with all my usage of it, it's made it a more comfortable shuffling experience for someone else. I like to think that I broke the cards in a little bit, even though it still basically looks brand new. But, well, let's see. See what else I've got in my bag of tricks here. This is a cool deck. This is a cool deck, and I'm not above owning a novelty deck. In fact, I have one that is an 80s theme, and that one is not going anywhere. I do actually do readings with it though. I keep it like in my living room space as just like, you know, just to have a deck there if I'm kind of feeling a question and just want to shuffle some cards, and it's not for like anything deep or big picture, just sort of like a mundane kind of question. It's a really fun deck to work with, and it is workable, and so I do use it. This one I found I was not using, and I tried to, and it definitely reads just fine. I just was like, yeah, it's an okay reader. I'm still not going to use it. There's like a dozen other decks that I'm going to grab before I grab this one. But I am a movie buff, and I mean, come on. You know, it's cards like that. It was like the only reason why I have had it as long as I have, and why I got it in the first place. Like, there are just some really, really clever choices in here. And I just, oh my gosh, you know, the cups especially, because I'm a Cancer, and so, or a Cancer sun sign. So cups are my element, and the Page of Cups from Shakespeare in Love. Come on. Wesley, the Dread Pirate Roberts, is the Knight of Cups. Amelie, my signifier, Queen of Cups. Come on. Oh, it kills me. It kills me. And look, Bill Murray from Lost in Translation. Like, I just about died when I saw that that's the Cups family. I'm so happy with that. And there are others in here for sure that I love. But the one thing that is kind of a bummer about this deck is that nothing against pip decks, nothing against them, but being that this has this fun movie theme, and you know, part of the enjoyment of having it is just seeing like the choices that were made for the cards for the minors to be pips. You know, they'll pick a movie, they'll have a movie character for the court cards, and the aces do as well. So this is from the Notebook. But then like 2 through 10 will just be, you know, like that. And it's fine. I mean, there's some imagery in there that you can like pull from to a very minor extent, though. I wouldn't say that they add, like, if you're more of a RWS reader than Marseille, sometimes there are pip style decks that give you a little bit of RWS hints in with their pips, but I guess this one doesn't as much. So it's like, it was okay. I don't know. It was, the novelty kind of wore off. And so I love knowing that. Oh, wait, this was another one. Donnie Darko for death. It's great. It's great. I really like this deck. I do. I really like this deck. But honestly, I pulled out the cards that I liked best. I took photos so I can remember them. But, you know, it's not what I'm going to work with, and it's really not worth it to me to just have it sitting on a shelf for pure novelty. So that's the only reason why I'm going to be rehoming this one. It is not for a lack of love, just a lack of use. And that's fine. Someone else is going to love it. Pre-Raphaelite tarot. It's beautiful. I love the pre-Raphaelites. That artwork is just gorgeous. And I had read a bio on one of their popular models that they use. They're just fascinating. So it's just like, you know, the history and the actual artwork is something that appeals to me. And this deck is neat too. I don't know. Maybe some people would prefer it if they used actual pre-Raphaelite imagery. I know that people can fall into different camps with that, like with pre-existing artwork, when it's kind of retroactively being shoved into a meaning on a card deck. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or works better for some versus others. This is a case where an artist just emulated the pre-Raphaelites artwork. You definitely can see some recognizable paintings in there, but the artwork is original as far as it's not taken directly from a painting. It is an artist who specifically created this artwork for this deck. So there are elements added in that do make it specific to the tarot. But there's some really clever reinterpretations of paintings that do already exist and that they just reinterpret in the context of the tarot. This is one I'm specifically thinking of. This Hermit card taken from, I actually have a journal. The original, that would be the original painting. And so you can see it's rendered differently, but you can see with the lantern, like it's a clear nod to the original and then just reinterpreted to look more like a hermit card. So I do really appreciate that about this deck, actually. that it is making it into a workable tarot, just in case the original works alone wouldn't be enough to convey the meaning that they're going for. And that's, again, very Ophelia is the original painting that would be based on. So whatever, it's lovely. It's a cool deck, and I ended up edging this with a metallic Sharpie, so it has kind of golden edges. I just don't use it. That's it. That's going to be the case for these next several decks. Speaking of pre-existing art, Rackham Tarot. So the backs. I love that blue. Oh. And I love Rackham's artwork. These are the originals, curated in such a way that they convey the tarot meanings, though they were not made specifically for that. I enjoy the artwork, but when I actually went through and made piles of ones I liked, loved, disliked, I mean, there are actually quite a few in here I didn't care for, and that I just didn't really love for the card it was depicting. I don't know. I love that though. Yeah. So I know there's some of us really good, really good. It's a nice deck. I think it was well done. I do think that they curated it well. I think that they made really nice choices for it, but, and I don't know, I thought I would do it I got it thinking that I could use it with fairy tales. Like if I were to use bibliomancy to select a story in a collection and, read that tale and kind of see what messages I extract from it, and then use a tarot deck to further unpack the main message to take from it as it could apply to me. And I think that right now that's satisfied well enough for me with the Tarot of the Divine. Love the linen texture of the cards. It's probably my favorite card stock. Shuffles like a dream. But yeah, I love this art style. I love the vibrancy. I love the specific fairy tales that are represented, and yet how the images are so true to that story, yet really do properly convey the tarot card meaning as it's traditionally understood. And so it's really well done. The artwork was made to be a tarot deck, so it's not just using curated pre-existing art and wedging it in. And yet there is still that authentic nod to the original stories that these came from. So it's also been a really good opportunity I do have the corresponding book by this artist that has the fairy tales in them. And it's been great learning some cultural tales that I wasn't as familiar with originally. And just the diversity of the international stories. Yeah, it's great. So I really only feel like at this time I need one fairy tale deck, and so this scratches the itch. And so for the same reason, the John Bauer Tarot. Oh, and I know that there are people who really love this. It's very special. I just honestly have to say, I don't have, here's the backs. Love that. I don't have a specific, I don't have a personal connection to Rackham and John Bauer's art. It's not like I grew up with the stories that were illustrated by them, and if I did, I don't remember those books. It's not something that's oh, this evokes my childhood. I don't think it's artwork that I really have a memory of growing up with, even though it certainly like evokes that, and it is so beautiful. It's not like I can't appreciate it. I think I just felt like I just don't have like a personal connection to it. So I think I do just personally, like I would just rather work on this one's so great. Ooh, and if anyone has seen the movie Midsummer, I saw this hanging on the wall in that movie. And when you see the bear, and then you see the bear at the end, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Ooh, I don't think I'll ever look at this picture the same way again. Anyway. So beautiful, so fanciful, can certainly like transport you to another world. I think it's ultimately just not artwork that has enough like meaning to me to like be willing to work with the fact that it's pre-existing art kind of shoved into these traditional tarot card meanings. I mean, I think that there's many that work well, some better than others, and yeah. In any case, the next one. I got this kind of figuring already I probably wasn't going to use it a lot. I think I am more of an RWS than Marseille reader. I feel like I can move through different stages of that, and there might be a time when I evolve to the point of really, really wanting to work with Marseille more and pip decks in general. But I don't know. Right now, it's not my thing. And I know that this is mass market, inexpensive, easy enough to get if I desire it again. I know that there's also a lot of other beautiful Marseille, traditional Marseille recreations, you know, using original artwork like this. And I think this is beautiful. Like I love the detail of it because I know that there's, you know, like a traditional French Marseille where it can be a much more simplified style, where this has like just more like detailed etching. I do really love that. But, and I mean the pips, I believe the majors and the minors are from 2 different historical decks. But the style works together really well, so it still feels really cohesive. This just doesn't get me excited. And I know for those who love it, I'm really not being critical. It's my own limitation. I'm not savvy enough yet with reading the cards purely numerologically. I'm a very visual person. I just like to have a pretty picture to look at and to have more imagery to work with to kind of get my imagination and intuition going. That's all that it is. I have studied the Marseille. I do still have Marseille style decks. I just feel like I'm happy with the ones that I have, and I don't, you know, I could have this just to have it as a historical representation, but I'm not actually going to use it, so someone else will. And I edged mine in kind of like a linen-y just to give it more an antiqued look to match that. So the Marseille style decks that I do own, which is enough for me right now in my collection, for now, I might again get more interested in working with them and pip decks in general someday, but as of now I am perfectly happy having the Marshmallow Marseille. Cutest thing ever. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. It's a little marshmallow in the middle. I just love it. But you know, it's colored outside of the lines. It's more modern and quirky, but probably the truest to the original Marseille deck that I own. I love it. It's little, it's cute. It's enough for me if I ever feel drawn to working with Marseille. And for variations on that theme, I also have and very much love the Triomphe, Della Luna. It's Deviant Moon, Patrick Valenza. The Deviant Moon, one of my all-time favorite decks. And I work with that one more than this particular one, but there's the backs for that. You can see it still looks like traditional style, but with Patrick Valenza's special spin on it with his creepy creatures, multiple boobs, and other body parts, multiple heads, very pointy boobs a lot of the time. Yeah, it's clearly his distinct style, but just done with this like almost historic looking Marseille vibe, and it's great. So again, if that's what I'm after, I will happily grab that deck or my Marshmallow Marseille. Or the third one that I own that fits the bill, the Tattoo Tarot, Incan Intuition. Love the backs, kind of like a classic playing card. These pips have nods to the RWS system. There will be little clues embedded within them. So if you are an RWS reader, there are ways to still take that meaning. You can use it numerologically, but then you might see an enhancement to the image like that. This is done in more of a tattoo art style, but still very much has traditional Marseille vibes. And the fact that I do lean towards RWS, I appreciate that those meanings are incorporated into here. I love the vibrancy of these cards. I just think that, like, look how kick-ass this Queen of Swords is. It's got this like extra edge to it that I love, and this one it's surprisingly inexpensive for the quality that it is. Like, this is a good solid deck. I love it. And so yeah, so those are my Marseille style. So I feel perfectly okay rehoming my Ancient Italian. Okay. This makes me a little sad. This is a really sweet deck. It's a cute one in a tin. And again, I know that this is a very loved one out there. I love it too. I just find I haven't really been using it. That's all. It's very sweet. Nice, muted tones, very soft, very gentle. I think it's a nice for self-care readings. Just when you want to have a nice, gentle touch, a bit of a hug. Animal-based, if you're looking for that energy. Chakras interwoven through it, even more so in the minors where you get these like colored ribbons flowing through. Because that is a part of the deck design to weave the chakras through. So especially if you like working with that energy, it's a great deck for that. And it's super cute. I also etched this with like that same Nini Distress ink. But yeah, I don't have much to say about it, so that's probably like in a nutshell, like just not my level of excitement over it. Like it's so cute, it's solid, it's great. There's something not there that pulls me to it. It's just, I don't get excited about it. It's nice. Mini deck. I never really expected this one to be, a huge favorite. I wanted a little mini deck to keep in my purse, something that would be easy to tote around, and they really don't get tinier than this. Get that? This is one of those like mini decks. I mean, I think the tarot in a tins that are out there are small, but like compared to the white sage, looks huge. Right? So yeah, it does make for a great one then to be carrying around in your pocket. But that being said, it also makes it difficult to see sometimes. And if you are middle-aged as I am and the eyesight is starting to go and you don't always have your glasses with you, it can be a challenge, especially when it has borders. I almost considered chopping them off because this is very much straight up RWS. So it's very easy to know what the cards are. It's RWS with cats. So I did think about like trimming off the borders, making it even minier, but I mean, then that is just getting so small, and it's not like it makes the picture any easier to see. But in all reality, I didn't have a problem seeing this and understanding what it was. It's funny, I like cats. I don't like those cats. No kidding. But really like clever interpretations. Like it's super cute, and like they actually feel like cats. Like it looks like cat behavior. I don't own a cat, so correct me if I'm wrong. If you do, you don't feel like these are realistic. But I just feel like there are certain like postures that seem like something a cat would really do. Like there's one I think where cat's like hanging from the curtain. Maybe I already went through that one. That might be the... Oh yeah, it's the Hanged Man. Cat's hanging upside down from the curtain. Stuff like that. It's funny. It's really cute. But that's all it really was for me, is just to like have that deck to carry around. And you know, honestly, I don't mind carrying around a full-size deck if I have to. I usually have a big old purse, and so the size doesn't matter for me. And I don't know, I wasn't really using it a lot anyways, and it's cute. Someone else will enjoy it more. The other little mini, the Steampunk Tarot. This was one of, the full-size version was one of my first tarot decks. And that one I have actually already rehomed, so I don't have it here to show. But I really loved it, and that was why I had gotten the mini, because I thought, ooh, this will be even better for me. I had the Tarot of Pagan Cats, but I thought I would get even more use if it was this one, being a deck that I really like a lot. There's the backs. And again, these are also really tiny, and you would think that they wouldn't do, like, it looks just like the full-size cards. They also have this black border. I edged my full-size deck in black, but this I went with like a brown to kind of go more with like these bronzy tones. But I'm kind of surprised, like with going with this dimension of card, that they wouldn't have just gone borderless so that you could see the images a bit better, because they're really like beautifully detailed. And what I love most about this deck is just the tones, just that like golden, bronzy, just kind of velvety look sometimes. Like it's just really beautiful. And easy to read with. Like I love my full-sized one. I really haven't used this one. I had gotten it more recently, and then it was pretty much, I don't know, by the time I got it, then I was just sort of realizing I didn't know if there was a place in my collection anymore. I feel like that. If there was a place in my collection anymore for the steampunk. And I never did care for that star card. It's okay, but I don't love it. And nah. But yeah, so just when I was thinking of rehoming the big one, I thought like, well, okay, I can still keep this one. It'll still keep a connection to it in my purse, but I just feel like in general, I'm ready to move on from this one. I love this Three of Cups. I love this Three of Cups. The depiction of these three women, all with their own style, and it's cool. It's a cool deck. I like the clothing. Like, how quirky is this Page of Cups? There's kind of an androgyny in some of these cards with the women, you know? Like, they're not all just put in dresses. Some of them exude a really cool masculinity too, and so I thought that was really neat. But it's a gorgeous deck. The artwork is beautiful, and I like the interpretations of each of the cards specifically. I got it because I mean, I liked that you can tell it's set in London, kind of in that industrial time, and I don't specifically have an affinity for steampunk though. I don't not like it. It's just like never been my thing specifically. And so I don't know, it feels like a very niche deck for that. And I don't know. I just feel like it was great. It was a great reader. I can recall like early on having like an important reading with it for a family member. And so it wasn't like, for being like kind of a novelty theme, like it's a real reader, and you could go dark with it too. And actually I liked pairing it with the Deviant Moon. The color tones are really pretty, and with like the industrial imagery and textures in the Deviant Moon, that looked really cool in this like steampunk world. So those are two, if you're into pairing your decks, the steampunk tarot with the Deviant Moon can look really cool. And so I've done like shadow readings with the two of them, and yeah, I liked it. So I don't know, but I think it's another one where I just feel like if I really find myself missing it, because I just haven't been using it, I haven't touched it in ages, and so if I really find myself missing it, it's mass market, I should be able to get it again. So that's that. Oh, here we go again. I think that's it now for tarot. So I may come back in another video then to go through the oracle decks that I will be rehoming. So thank you for visiting my channel if you're with me today, and let me know in the comments how you feel about some of the decks that I talked about today. Do you have a strong connection to any of them? Do any seem surprising that I would be giving them away, or do you agree? Did you have a similar kind of lackluster experience with some? I don't know. Whatever your personal experience might be with any one of these decks, for the positive or the negative, I would love to hear about it. So let me know in the comments, and I'll be back with my oracle cards next. Bye.